time to get fluent and chill with Anthony K of Sports Fluent and Jermaine J. Dub of Chilltown Hoops. It's Fluent and Chill. I'm Anthony K from Sports Fluent. He's J. Dub from Chilltown Hoops. Jay, how you doing, man?
Yo, what's going on, man?
These finals, they've been so good. Mm-hmm. And before I know we jump into who's the winner and we jump into stats and stuff. Let me start by saying, Giannis is putting together some of those plays that you look back at 5 and 10 years and go, oh, that block, that dunk last night, that alley-oop. Like, those are those legend plays that, hey, it's one thing to win a finals, but it's those moments. It's that spectacular move by Michael Jordan. It's that two-handed block on Iguodala from LeBron. That's just like, you'll always have those memories. Yeah. And he's got like 2 of them.
What it reminded me of when Giannis went down for that alley-oop and got that and one, it reminded me of back in 1987 when Bird stole it and Dennis Johnson recognized that he stole it and he was like, oh, he stole the ball, and then just dove to the basket and just made a big play. That's exactly what it reminded me of when Drew Holiday stole it and Giannis recognized that he stole it and he was off to the races like, let's get him. And he just did it.
That's a great comparison because I didn't think of that one until once you said it, boom, the picture popped into my head and I see that play. Yeah. So we always start with the winners. Mm-hmm. And when the winners shoot 57% from the field and 50% from 3, hey, listen, some good things are happening, right? When you shoot that high of a percentage, and when you get close to 90 points from your big 3, from Giannis, Middleton, and Holiday, who, listen, I'm gonna say I was wrong. I said, I don't know that I want Middleton shooting 20 times, but when he goes 12 of 20 and plays that defense, my thought in game 4 was he was exerting so much energy on defense, which he needed to do to shut down Paul, and that's why his shooting was poor, because, hey, you're tired. Like, this, when you play defense, you're tired. It takes a lot out of you. So for him to do that on the defensive end, then shoot that well, and dish out 13 assists, what more could you want from your point guard? Like, doesn't that trading away those draft picks, whatever they did to get Holiday, it's worth it now, right?
It absolutely looks like it's worth it. I'll tell you what, man, what they did last night in terms of weathering the storm and in terms of them just holding on, because Phoenix came out throwing haymakers. They came out 37 points in the first quarter. They jumped on Milwaukee. Now, it's the first quarter. It's early. Teams have runs, and you can withstand a run. But in this particular situation, this looked like the way Phoenix came out, that they were just going to destroy Milwaukee until the second quarter showed up. And then they didn't turn it on. They just withstood the run. We're talking about 43 points in the second quarter, where they outscored Milwaukee plus 19 just in the second quarter alone. Going into the fourth quarter, they got 79 second chance opportunities to Milwaukee's 53. Now, the dirty work idea, rebounding, assists, steals, turnovers, Phoenix shored that up. The difference is that Milwaukee's big 3, they were able to continue to do what they were doing. Middleton is so smooth in the mid-range. He just doesn't seem to get rattled in the mid-range. He takes care of the basketball. He makes difficult shots, but they look simple. They don't look like they're tough shots. They look simple because he always looks so calm and composed. Phoenix doesn't have a guy like Giannis. They have guys who can score. They have dynamic guys, but they don't have a guy like Giannis. And that's been, I think, is the difference in this series, because he does so much for that unit, both on the offensive and defensive side of the basketball. In transition, he's their best player in transition. He's their best rebounder. He's their best defender. And when you talk about Drew Holiday just looked like he was set out to make right on what happened the other night. I'm going to be a better offensive player tonight because they need me to be a better offensive player tonight. I'm going to play defense, but they need me to be a better offensive player tonight. And it looked like the game changed for him when he started converting on layups, because he wasn't converting on layups in game 4. He just wasn't. But his defense stayed solid. But once he got some layups going and converted in transition, he just got going and they couldn't really do anything with him. What I can't talk about enough is their bench. Bobby Portis is huge for them. And he played 19 minutes, 9 points and 3 rebounds. The thing that I love about Connaughton, and their bench, by the way, their bench outscored Phoenix, I think 23-15. And that was largely due to Portis and Connaughton. What I can't say enough about Connaughton is his ability, not just to make open shots, but to take open shots. You know, you got a lot of guys that are out there and they'll look at the basket, but it doesn't really look that big. Connaughton is out there, and his attitude is, they have me out here for a reason, to shoot the basketball. So I am going to shoot the basketball. And he did a really good job last night. I'm loving what Milwaukee has done. Just so you know, Tone, we got the road win that we were looking for. We don't need to come back out here. We're done. We don't have to come back out here.
Yeah, I said it, right? It's the team that wins the first road game. That's when the series is over.
Don't book no more plane tickets. We don't have to come back out here. We good.
I think Jordan said that to his team when they were flying up to Phoenix. He's like, we're not coming back. We're going to win this game. We're not coming back. And that's huge. I want to go back to Connaughton for a second because you're right. Listen, both teams only went 3 deep on their bench. They have an 8-man rotation. Connaughton and Portis, the only 2 that scored, and yes, outscored them 23-15. And you're right. You're there to shoot. So if you're not going to shoot, what good are you? So good on him, because you're right. That moment could be too big for some. And, you know, they pull up, or they hesitate enough that the defender gets there so that they have to pass. But really, you can see, you know, they pulled up. They didn't want to shoot that. So he did great. I want to say this because Holiday, it's funny how, you know, coaches always tell us, hey, make a couple of plays, get a couple of layups, you know, and it'll get you going. Holiday in the losses, and like you said in game 4, was missing some layups. And I think it hurt the rest of his game. And you're right. You get a couple of those layups, you get the confidence up. And now, you know, the basket just looks a lot bigger. And really, Holiday is doing, and I know I'm going to get slack for this, but Holiday is doing what I think everyone expected, and not to say he's not, but Paul to do. Play really solid defense, get his teammates involved, make some big shots. That's what Holiday is doing for the Bucks right now. And he's doing it better than, you know, Paul is doing it, and that's the difference. I think, obviously, look, Giannis, you're right. How do you replicate Giannis? He's a freak. That's his name. So
and what they don't have, Tone, is what they're doing also with a good job with Chris Paul is they're keeping him on the left side of the floor, which is where he's the least effective, where they're forcing him left. Chris Paul is really good in the mid-range, but when they keep him on his weak hand, he's not nearly as effective as when he's going to his strong hand. And I thought they did a great job at that yesterday.
Before game 5, I said to you, I made a prediction, and I said the Suns are going to have an incredible 3-point shooting game. Holiday's going to get into foul trouble, and Chris Paul's going to have a really nice game, and the Suns are going to win. In the first quarter, it looked like I was right, because they were hitting threes. They had a nice lead. Holiday looked like, I think he had 2 fouls in the first quarter, but correct me, or he might have picked up the second one in the second quarter. But I was like, oh, look, my prediction's coming true. And if you look at even if you just look at the stats at the end of the game, if I told you without knowing anything else, the Suns shot 55% from the field and almost 68.4% from 3, would you believe me if I told you they lost?
No. Absolutely not. And not only that, I was going to get into that. The idea that I think they went 13 for 20 on the long ball. And one of the things that I found out in basketball,
13 of 19.
Yeah, 13 of 19. So if something's working, what do? You stick to it.
Right.
You keep doing it. Well, the problem that Phoenix had last night was the ball got stuck in Book's hands. It wasn't moving. And because it's not moving, now we got a lot of isolations. It's not nearly as difficult to cover isolations as it is to cover people. When the ball's moving, that means people are moving. When people are moving, that means the defense will potentially be off balance. So with that being said, they were knocking down threes. Then they just stopped going to it, and they started going to Book more in isolation. And that slowed them down, and they became stagnant offensively. And I think that hurt them.
And listen, Book, you never hold one play as the deciding factor in a game, right? Book had a great game. He shot well, 40 points. But to your point, they shot 13 of 19. And although the Bucks only made one more, they went 14 of 28. shooting those 28 threes, shooting those 9 more threes opened up the game for everybody else. And I think that's your point, right? Is that Phoenix was hitting it, like I said, at almost 70%. Why would you stop? Why would you stop shooting if you're shooting that well? Now, some of that's the defense, what they're giving you. The other part is, hey, we need to force the issue because you're shooting so well. Right. Let's walk through that. Listen, again, I'm not blaming Booker. I'm not, but walk me through that final play where I'll tell you, as I watched it, I was screaming at Book because he beats PJ Tucker and he has a moment right at the foul line and I'm screaming, shoot. And instead he takes another step and allows Holiday to close in on him and get the steal. And then obviously the play ensues. Did you see the same thing, or
no,
what did you see when you were watching?
What I saw was the play was drawn up for him, obviously, and the play was drawn up for him to get into the lane and to get something good. Well, they put a wall right in front of him. He didn't see Holiday behind him, so because he was trying to get off the ball.
Yeah,
he was trying to get rid of the ball. So by the time Holiday showed up, by the time he was able to get off the ball, it was too late because Holiday was already on top of him. The plan was to get in the lane and get something good. I think he might have taken another step too far. That's why the wall showed up.
Right.
At that mid-range, he probably could have gotten a better shot. But I think that he was looking for something going all the way to the basket because that's what he was doing for the most part last night. He was trying to get to the basket, maybe get a foul, maybe get some hands on him and get to the free throw line. But when that wall showed up, he was trying to get off the ball, and by that point, it was too late.
Yeah, well, and that's why I was screaming because, like I said, once he beat Tucker, I'm like, shoot that. Yeah. You have a mid-range game. That's in your arsenal.
Right.
You have that opening. It's the finals. Yeah. You take that shot, and you live and die with that shot. But that's why I said he took that step, hit that wall, allowed Holiday, and then the rest is history. And it's those little, we talked about in the rest of the series, right? Those hustle plays, those instances where one bad decision changes the complexion of a game or a series.
He flips it. Yep.
And now you're looking at their game 7, right? Is game 6 because it's win and go back home for another game or lose and you're done.
Well, we talked about this already, Tone. It's not nearly as difficult to win game 1 or game 2 on your home floor as it is to win game 5 when the series is tied at 2-2. Well, now the pressure goes up because the loser of this game is now facing an elimination game. And now with Phoenix, you're facing an elimination game on the road. So this is going to be even more difficult for you guys because you haven't shown that you can withstand what they do defensively. You haven't shown that you can do that. I don't think Milwaukee did anything different than what they were doing. I didn't like that they went back to switching on the perimeter with the bigs and the smalls. I didn't appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that either.
I did not like that at all. However, they were able to withstand that because what they did offensively. Now, am I expecting almost 90 again from Giannis, Middleton, and Holiday? I don't know about that, but if I can get a similar effort where I can get Holiday at 18, 19, and I can get Middleton at about 25, and Giannis does what Giannis does, and they talk more on defense, I think this series is over. I think they're done.
So before we get to that, we'll get to the predictions, and it sounds like I got yours already, but we mentioned probably 4 times already in this conversation the mid-range.
Mm-hmm.
In the NBA, it's become this kind of dunk or 3-point type of league. Yet you're seeing 2 teams in the finals who are really good, have really good players. Middleton, as you mentioned, Booker, Paul, who are really good in the mid-range game.
Mm-hmm.
Most leagues, including the NBA, are copycat leagues.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think seeing 2 teams who are so effective in the mid-range is going to have some coaches rethink and utilize the mid-range game more? Are we seeing, is this a one-time thing, or do you think we're seeing a renaissance of the mid-range?
I don't know if it's a one-time thing because the mid-range is working. So coaches have that in their game plan. But we play, but in today's game, this is a long ball league. Long as guys like Steph Curry and Trae Young are around, this is going to be a long ball league. But when you see guys like Chris Paul and DeMar DeRozan, Middleton, guys who can knock down the mid-range game, and it translates into winning, we may very well have to implement that more. Not so much as go away from the long ball.
We're never going to go away. I think the long ball's here to stay, but I'm saying it might not be, for right now, I think we're averaging obviously a league high at 35 or 36 3-pointers a game per team.
Right.
Does that number go to like 30, right? And you get 4 or 5 more opportunities where instead of it's that long ball, it's the mid-range game. I think you're right. It needs to be incorporated more, right?
I do think the better teams will do that. I do think that.
All right. So since we already got your prediction, let's end it on. So you said obviously you think the Bucks. Why do you think the Bucks win Game 6?
I think that they continue to do what they've been doing. Phoenix has not had a counter for what they've been doing defensively. They haven't. And as long as Milwaukee can continue to slow down their transition game, as long as they've held them to 100 points and 103 points in Milwaukee. They got 118 out of them yesterday. 119. 119 out of them yesterday. I think the same thing happens on Tuesday where if they can hold them down again. I think this series is over. We got the road win that we were looking for. We got it. I don't think that because they didn't dominate on the backboard like they normally do, because they didn't dominate in the dirty work area, our best players stepped up and theirs didn't. They didn't utilize DeAndre Ayton nearly as much as they should have. I mean, he had 20 and 10 yesterday, but there were times when I forgot he was out there.
It's one of those, again, how do you have a quiet 20 and 10? But he's had a couple of those, yeah.
And there was times when I forgot that he was out there. But to your point, Tone, to your question, Tone, I think this series is over. We got the road win we were looking for. There's no reason for us to get on the plane and go back out there. None.
I'm going to agree with you. And it's because, one, of what I'm seeing on the court. But two, Giannis said something. And he said it in a way that I believe him. And after the win in Game 4, he said, he says, ego lives in the past. Pride looks to the future, right? Look at what I did. Look at what I'm going to do. He goes, but humility lives in the present. Mm-hmm. And if you focus on today, right, you'll be fine and we'll be successful. And I really think they're going to go into Game 6 and he's their leader. Don't ever get confused, right, by who's scoring or who's shooting the free throws late in the game, right? Like, or Giannis giving the ball to Middleton late in the game because he's the better closer. This is Giannis' team. Like, I think back to a conversation I saw you having and I had with someone else about the Lakers with Shaq and Kobe. Let's not get Kobe was the closer, but Shaq was still the best, was the player. You know what I mean? Let's not confuse those things, closer and best player. So Giannis is the leader. He's the best player of this team. And if he sets the tone. So if he can get them to buy into, forget what we've done, forget what this title's going to mean, right, to Milwaukee, to you as a player, and just live in today in this game, I don't see how they lose at home the way that they've been playing. So I think we both got the Bucks in 6. There you go, Fluid and Chill. And once they do, we'll come back and tell you why they won and high five that we picked the right team, or we'll sit here with some humility and eat some humble pie that we were wrong. Yeah. And talk about how that, and then what's next? Because then we're going to get into some off-season stuff once the finals is over. Mm-hmm. J-Man, thanks for your time. I appreciate it. Everybody check out Fluid and Chill. You can find it on the RyanShow.fm.